We all know Robert House, founder of RobCo Industries, self-proclaimed saviour of Vegas, and the largest piece of jerky you've ever seen. But how much do we know about his family, specifically his older half-brother, Anthony House? The answer is not much. In 2022, Robert's parents and Anthony's father died in a freak accident involving lightning and a gyro plane. Robert was still a baby at this point, and Anthony had been working for his father, growing and maintaining the family business, which is manufacturing tools. But after their father's death, everything was meant to be shared evenly, and that didn't sit right with Anthony. Why should this baby, who has done nothing for the company, receive half of everything? In Anthony's eyes, Robert wasn't really a part of his family, and he put his lawyers to work, ensuring Robert received nothing of the inheritance. The company did well under Anthony's control, at least in the beginning. Based on terminal entries, Anthony was pretty much running the company 2 years before his father died anyway, and without him, things remained pretty much the same, although there was something that was changing, and that was Anthony's mental well-being. For reasons unknown, he was already showing signs of paranoia and suspicion before his father died, and over the next 40 years, until 6 months or so before the Great War, he only got worse. While Robert's early years were spent without parents, he still achieved more than most did in their entire lives. By 27 years old, Robert had his own company, RobCo Industries, and slowly he took control of H&H Tools. Anthony House spiraled into a world of conspiracy, convinced that his employees were collaborating with his half-brother to perform a hostile takeover. The only employee whom Anthony placed any trust in was his human resource manager, Cindy Lou Krebs, who acted as his right hand in the workplace, his enforcer, in other words, and oh boy, was there a lot of things for her to enforce. Anthony had all of the cameras removed from the offices and factory floor. No more than 3 employees were permitted in the break rooms at any time, and if that wasn't bad enough, all of the bathrooms were sealed off and walled over. Employees were told to take care of their waste disposal needs before or after work, all in effort to stop the traitors from working together, if they existed at all, that is. These changes were not enough to keep Anthony on the level, and he put more policies in place. Employees were to only speak English, even during meetings with international clients. Rooftop access was strictly off limits. I did go up there to look around. There's not much to see, but you can see the Lucky 38 from the roof. So perhaps Anthony thought employees may use the roof to communicate with Robert. Stranger things have happened. All employees must submit to random DNA screenings to isolate the traitor gene. Complete and utter madness. And it only got worse. New security systems were installed. Automated heavy turrets monitored the cubicles, the central catwalk, and outside Anthony's office. The turrets would open fire on anyone who wasn't carrying their ID pass, so employees were encouraged to carry theirs at all times. Also, employees had to submit every month either a vial of blood, 1 lock of hair, a 5 cm skin sample, or 20 nail clippings. Toenail and fingernail were fine, but it could not be a mixture of both. I don't know why. The samples were then retained for monitoring purposes. But wait, there's more. Any employee seen cohabiting, colluding, or cogitating with foreigners, masons, carpenters, Tragic the Gathering players, illegal aliens, actual aliens, or the Flemish, a Belgian ethnic group, would be terminated immediately, and that could mean death considering the new automated turrets. Lastly, there was to be no eye contact with Anthony House, even if he was wearing his special hat. If you did happen to make eye contact with him, the action would be seen as an attempt to steal his thought energy, and that was grounds for dismissal. Apparently, all of these things, as insane as they were, still wasn't enough to put some employees off of working for Anthony House, because of the great benefits. I can only wonder what these benefits were. Maybe a new house, company car, and a fat bonus? Yet Anthony's delusions only worsened, especially after a new company called RobCo went after H&H Tools' market share. Several employees, Jenny DeSoto, Alan Dalton, and Dobson O'Gill, discussed how RobCo was able to offer their clients better deals than H&H Tools ever could. Their sales were tanking, and if something didn't change soon, The company would be bankrupt, forced to sell, or forced to shack up with a new parent company at the helm. The attack felt personal, and it was. It was Robert House coming to take what he believed was rightfully his. The employees didn't know that and wondered if Anthony ran over RobCo's dog or something. I guess they think RobCo is a person. Alan tried checking RobCo's SEC filings to learn about the company's information and financial results, but RobCo was like a maze. They couldn't tell who was in charge, but Anthony knew all too well who was behind RobCo Industries. O'Gill then had his brother, a private investigator, look into RobCo to learn more about them, but nothing ever came of that. While there's no evidence to suggest these three employees were conspiring against Anthony, they did speak in code, or what seemed like code, not to hide their traitorous actions, but to arrange their private time. One example is Alan telling Jenny that his wife is out of town for the weekend, and if Jenny wanted, she could go over to his place after work on Friday and bring the accordion and riding crop. Jenny said she couldn't because she was busy having to play the Loch Ness Monster in a play, a lie which she confessed to Dobson, meaning she was actually free on Friday, and if Dobson wanted, she could go to his place and bring the stovepipe and souvenir moon rocks. Meanwhile, Alan believed Jenny was busy, so he invited Dobson over instead and told him to bring the rubber sheets and souvenir elephant foot trash can. I mean, they were using company computers and Anthony could read their emails. Is it any wonder he grew suspicious? Naturally, Anthony's mental state became even worse as the years rolled on. He found himself missing his father's advice more and more. He wondered if his father would be proud of the decisions he's made, but decided second-guessing himself would do no good. He admitted he wouldn't be weighed down by the past and wouldn't waste any energy on ancient family history, especially when that history wasn't really family at all. Then, in 2053, and this is cut content, so take it with a pinch of salt, an employee called Matsumoto cornered Anthony in the hall like a wild animal and kept asking him if he was alright. An ordinary thing to ask someone, especially your boss, but Anthony wasn't your normal boss, and after this, he suspected Matsumoto of being a traitor and made a note to speak to Cindy Lou, as she always knew what to do. Matsumoto isn't mentioned again, either in game or cut content, so either he was fired or Cindy got rid of him. But in 2062, despite the extra security measures, Anthony grew distrustful of another employee called Henderson. Anthony believed Henderson was conspiring with his half-brother to seize his company. In response, Anthony asked Cindy Lou to monitor Henderson's emails, and 6 months later, Henderson released a 10-point memo outlining the benefits of mechanization and automation, and that was enough to convince Anthony that Henderson was a traitor. I guess since Robert has a hard-on for robots, the mere mention of automation didn't sit right with Anthony, and he believed there was only one thing he could do to save his father's legacy. Cindy Lou brought Henderson to Anthony, and the man was never heard of again, serving as an example as to why you don't cross the house. His words, not mine. I guess Anthony killed him, maybe took his ID pass and sent him packing, only for the turrets to wipe him out. A simple workplace accident, and nothing more. Even with the traitor taken care of, Anthony couldn't relax. He only had one friend in the world, and I use that term lightly because Cindy was an employee, and Anthony couldn't trust anyone else. He stopped going for haircuts because he thought people could steal your thought energy. He wore his special hat at all times, and even had a special shotgun. These can't be found in the game. I imagine they were once intended to be rare items, maybe a psychic nullifier similar to the Forecaster, and a unique shotgun that did additional damage to RobCo robots, or something fitting. Through a series of hidden terminal entries, we see Anthony has gone full cuckoo. He can no longer hear his father's voice, which breaks him. He confesses his father always loved Robert more than he loved him, a strange thing to say considering Robert was just a baby when his father died. There's a bunch of neverthelesses, and Anthony declares that Cindy Lou can no longer save him, either because he's beyond saving, or because Cindy left the company to work elsewhere, and I wouldn't blame her. On June 19, 2077, having lost faith even in Cindy Lou Krebs, convinced that every single one of his employees was in on the conspiracy and that Robert House was coming to physically remove him from his office, Anthony locked down the factory and activated its security systems, refusing to go down without a fight. Anthony's last terminal entry pretty much sums up his feelings towards Robert, and depending on what platform you're using, he either signs off as Anthony House or Alexander House. There is no Alexander House in the game, but his father is unnamed, so perhaps he's become so deluded he thought he was his father, Alexander, although that's just a theory. 6 months later, the Great War happened. Anthony's actions turned his family's factory into a death trap for centuries to come, even rigging a shotgun, not a special shotgun mind you, to shoot the person who came through the door. Anthony's remains are nowhere to be found, and his safe has been emptied, so maybe Robert really did come and take him away. The only other unusual thing in the room is the Lucky 38 VIP card on the desk. Perhaps Anthony bought this with the intention of spying on Robert, maybe sending Cindy to check out the casino, or maybe Robert sent it to Anthony in efforts to heal their relationship. I don't imagine Anthony House will appear in the show, but maybe in a flashback or something, Robert House could mention how he was stripped of his inheritance soon after being born, and he built up his company and absorbed what was rightfully his. Anthony House's life is a tragic spiral of paranoia and obsession. What began as bitterness over his inheritance turned into decades of mistrust, cruelty, and madness. By the time of the Great War, he had completely isolated himself, destroying his company and leaving behind a factory of death. Robert House, meanwhile, rose to power, ultimately saving New Vegas and securing his place in history. Anthony's story, on the other hand, has been largely forgotten, hidden in old terminals and scraps of cut content. We may never know exactly what happened to Anthony in his final moments, or where he ended up before he died, but his downfall serves as a mirror to Robert's own success. Two brothers shaped by the same tragedy, one building an empire, and the other tearing his own world apart.